Hi, I'm Tony Tuppence with A Sign of the Times, and we're here to share a little conversation about the history of jazz, the iconic music that was created out of the African American experience, the experience ultimately of the enslaved. So that's why it's a good time to talk about this during Black History Month. We're going to start out our conversation. Of course, we are a sign of the time, so we're going to start our conversation with a little music, something made famous by the jazz man himself, Mr. Louis Armstrong.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I see fields of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright blessed days and dark secret nights. Then I think to myself, what a wonderful world. All the colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, also on the faces of the people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear little bitty babies crying. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. What a wonderful world. What a wonderful world. Yeah, y'all. Let me introduce to you my cohort of friends and musicians here with us this afternoon. On guitar, Mr. Van Sachs. On bass guitar, Mr. Paul Dozier. Tyrone Jefferson, our band leader and leader in all things, on trombone. And my name is Tony Tuppence. I'm the vocalist and program director for A Sign of the Times of the Carolinas. So guys, let's get it started. This is kind of fun. It was when I started pulling some of this stuff together and thinking about the history of jazz, I look forward to having a conversation with you all. And so let's talk about jazz's origins. I think it's fair to say that everything had a predecessor. So, what would you say was the predecessor to the idiom that we call jazz?
I would probably pick Louis Armstrong for being the predecessor of jazz. A lot of the music prior to that I don't think you could label it as such.
So what, in terms of music, what would you say came before jazz, that's linked to jazz? Because I'm trying to link it to the history, the history of Black folks in this country. So where, before jazz, then what was the influence that got us to this place? What do you think?
To me, I think it's rooted in the blues is where I think it comes from, and which was the way that people communicated. It was the way people told stories, and you know a lot more about that from the research that I've heard you guys do. But yeah, to me, it's solidly in the blues, and I think that's where it kind of that those were its origins, and then as time passed, it became more textured, more layered, more complex, harmonically more complex. But I think the feeling to me has always been the soul of it was essentially the blues, is what I think. So.
And that's why oftentimes when we're playing together, you guys will move in the midst of us doing jazz, even straight ahead jazz, and Tyrone will call, or one of you will kind of do a lick that leans us into the blues itself. So that's really cool. I saw a quote by Dizzy Gillespie, and I didn't bring it with me, and I didn't. I haven't memorized it, but basically he said that when you get down to it, from jazz, you've got to go to the blues, to the spirituals, the field hollers. And he said, ultimately, you can't talk about jazz without digging all the way back to the continent and the rhythms, if you will, that came directly from Africa.
That's right.
Yes.
So, and I think that always needs to be in the room, so that we give homage to those that came before and that are rooted. When we think about that, though, what is it that you'd like to see jazz move forward in the world of music today?
Wow.
That's a hard question.
Yeah, because I can't see. Yeah, I can't see the idiom changing anyway.
Yes.
You know, like what's this other thing that the young people do? But it's not jazz. You know,
Maybe
it's
smooth jazz.
yeah, smooth jazz. Oh man.
Yeah.
I won't say much, but yeah.
Yeah. I would say it has to stay original.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to move anywhere. I mean, jazz is jazz. Now, if you want to, I think what changes jazz, because I feel like you could put a jazz lick on any genre of music and call it jazz rock, jazz R&B, which is what's happening now. That's kind of like the smooth jazz thing. But jazz within itself, I think, should never go anywhere. It should stay exactly where it is because of the origin of it, you know. And that's just like manipulating grandma's, apple pie. You know, it's nothing like the original.
That's right.
You know, so the thing is,
You can add a new spice, but it's still apple pie.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
I like that.
yeah.
Well, to me, when you try to define jazz, like when I think of jazz, I think of the Miles, Coltrane,
Those days. Yeah.
Herbie Hancock, Tony Williams, Ron Carter. That's where my mind goes.
Exactly.
Some cats, they go to Charlie Parker. Some cats go to Louis Armstrong.
Yeah.
Some cats go to Mike Brecker and Mike Stern and those kinds of people. But to me, jazz is improvisational. That's the whole point of jazz. So anything could be jazz if it's improvised music. Because the whole point of jazz was cats got together, they played the tunes of the day, and then they put their own spin on it. They put their own musicality on it. And that's what's always been defining for me. You know, everybody, who was it, Miles and Herbie and those guys, they did new standards, which was great. They took time after time, the if you're lost, you can, and they did those kinds of tunes, but they did them in a jazz fashion. A lot of what we do, we take tunes and just mess with them.
Right.
That's jazz to me.
Yeah, it's
so
the
it could be
formula.
anything. Yeah.
Right. You know, it's really just the jazz formula and the style that I think needs to be where it needs to be. You know, that original sound and feel. Yeah, you could take any pop song and rearrange it to be jazz.
The only thing I would say there is this whole concept of avant-garde jazz.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this. I ain't feeling that part because sometimes you got like two choruses, a bridge, and out or something like that. But the avant-garde thing is just like loose, man. You can play whatever you want.
Yeah.
But
It's spontaneous.
But,
Yeah, well-
but that's like improvisation to the nth degree.
It
some
is.
cats would say, which is good. You know, it's still improvisational music.
Yeah, it don't float my boat, but that's all right.
But isn't that the point though? It doesn't necessarily have to float the boat. I was thinking of a quote from Miles,
Yeah.
where Miles, I think, Miles Davis.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're right. I should say that. Miles Davis said basically he didn't like naming it. He really wasn't even to naming it jazz because he said it's really black folks' music. Is what it is, and it will evolve. But I guess it's sort of using your apple pie analogy, though. There has to be something, though, that's foundational, if you will, that stays there, whether that's the improvisational part or certain rules.
But Miles, that's a great example because Miles, I mean, he was a bebop cat, and then it was kind of the cool thing, and then the whole Bill Evans thing was kind of blue, but he really evolved over time. And he kept going forward, and a lot of cats don't. I mean, there's still a lot of cats that, they're dead into the bebop thing, and they kill it, and it's great. But he wasn't one of those guys. He moved with the times. So
That's right.
Yeah, that's a whole different way to look at jazz. That's why jazz is so complicated because it's not. It can be a lot of different things to a lot of different
That's
people.
true.
Yeah. Speaking, since we talked about Miles a little bit, let's do a little bit of all blues and just a snippet so that if there are young people out there who are not familiar with Miles Davis, let's do something that we can't imagine anyone that is not familiar with Miles Davis, but let's do a little bit of all blues.
1, 2, 3.
See the sky, you and I, seeing sky and you and I, all blue. So many colors, so many hues. See the sky, you and I, seeing sky, you and I, all blue. Yeah. So many colors, so many hues. Seeing sky, you and I, seeing sky, you and I, all get the blues and so many colors, so many hues, so many colors, so many hues, so many colors, but we all get the blues. Yeah.
I dug that.
So one of the things that I remember hearing, and it's not really a pet peeve of mine, but sometimes I've heard other folks who are maybe not jazz musicians say that, well, jazz is so improvisational that I can just play anything I want. It's like, no, there are no rules to jazz. Don't y'all just get up there and make something up.
Yeah.
And what are some of those rules? Because you guys have been my teachers for many years, and it's been fun. But what are some of those things that you need to know if you're going to step up to that microphone and brave it out to play on a jazz set?
Well, we talked about the guys coming up playing jazz and they took popular music. Well, if you take a song, it has a form. So you take any song today, they have a form. There's, they refer to it as a verse and a chorus and a bridge and different things in there, turnaround. So you have to know the song that you're improvising over if you're in a setting. So if you go to a jam session and somebody calls rhythm changes, all the jazz musicians know what the rhythm changes are. They know the form of the tune, they know the changes, they know where the bridge comes. And so, yeah, there's a lot that's unsaid, but there's a whole lot of stuff that happens in the woodshed to where they can go do that kind of thing. So, yeah, for people, it's a structured music in its way. And you have to know the structures and you have to understand the form and you have to have some musical knowledge and you have to put in the time so you can go to a jam session and play. And, we've all been at jam sessions and I played at jam sessions where I had no business being there because I didn't know the form. When I was coming up, I was lost. But, we've all been at sessions where a young guy will come up and you can tell that he just hasn't done those things yet or hasn't worked on those things. But yeah, there's a structure and there's a form to everything, except maybe the avant-garde. But the fact that there is no structure is the structure.
Right.
You can think of it that way too. So.
And then you have different types like AABA, or in terms of format of the song, or some cats just got like AAAA. It's just it ain't got no bridge, So it depends on what the artist started.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will never forget. I heard a statement from Miles Davis. A lot of times he didn't agree with guys practicing his music. Mm-hmm. Sometimes he would just like to go on stage and just go. I think he told Herbie Hancock. Herbie Hancock was going over some material. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm practicing." No. I said, No, we're not practicing. We're just going to go.
Yeah.
And I understand that. Again, yes, it has to be structured. And Herbie, of course, he's a great. So what he wanted Herbie to do is just not premeditate, but to just get out there and flow.
Yeah.
But that means, though, and we've talked about this at some rehearsals, that means, though, that the work then had to have been done at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't get on at rehearsal, band rehearsal, and God forbid, on a set and try to figure out the parts that you should have figured out at the house.
Mr. Page would say, "Go back to the woodshed."
Right.
And then come back and let me know what you got.
But some of the coolest gigs I've ever played were gigs where you were playing with people that you didn't know, and it was kind of a put together thing.
Yeah.
And I always called it you had to have your ears on. That's what the cats used to tell me. It was like you need to be engaged and paying attention to see what's happening. But you mentioned the Miles thing. One of my favorite things were those outdoor concerts. I think they were in New York where they did My Funny Valentine, Stella by Starlight. And what Miles did, which I always thought was fascinating, he would come in at different times. Like his solo might come in halfway through the first verse. Mm-hmm. And he did that stuff on purpose.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But the cool thing is having that concept of let's not rehearse too much. Let's not make it too much.
That's it.
Then it's like what's Quincy Jones,
Right.
Let God walk through the studio. Mm-hmm. It's the same kind of thing. If you're too prepared, there's no space for God to walk through the gig, or to creativity to happen.
That's
Yeah, because you can rehearse it to death if you're not careful.
Yeah, and some of your best stuff ends up on the studio floor.
Right.
You know what
You're
James Brown
exactly
used to say? He give us a new song, And he said, "All right, let's play it." And we played. He said, and someone said, "Mr. Brown, can we do it?" He said, "First time God, second time man."
Yeah,
And that's how it went, you know.
Exactly
Very
right.
true.
Exactly right. So, thinking of a song, a jazz tune that you can hear it different ways. Juan Tizal's Caravan, right? We do it heavy on the bass. Yeah, let's do a little bit. Let's do a little bit of Caravan.
1, 2, 3.
Night and stars above that shine so bright. The mystery of the fading light within our desert caravan. Sleep upon my shoulder as we creep across the sand so I may keep the memory of our caravan. This is so exciting. You are so inviting. Resting in my arms as I thrill to the magic charms of you. Beside me here beneath the blue, our dream of love is coming true. Within our desert caravan, within our desert caravan, within our desert caravan, within our desert caravan. Yeah.
That was a new one.
But hey, that fits then, right?
It
That
worked.
fits.
We got out.
Yeah. I heard or I read somewhere that early on, certainly during the era of Louis Armstrong and the big bands, that jazz was music that people danced to. Now, when you hear people speak about a jazz concert, they're going out to hear jazz, to listen to some jazz. You seldom hear people say, I've never heard anybody say, I'm going to dance and I'm going to a jazz concert, right? So how did that change, do you think, over time? I mean, I'm thinking of the big band era, right? So that was jazz. Am I correct about that for the most part?
How did it change over time?
Yeah, how did we get to a point that instead of, or maybe you haven't thought about it, did we get from dance music to let's go listen to jazz? I've actually heard some folks say, jazz is too cool for me. It's too sophisticated for me. I don't even know what to do at a jazz concert.
I don't know. I got some stuff at home talking about the evolution of jazz, and I think I remember someone saying, or what I read, field hollers back in the day when
The enslaved
the
people.
enslaved people, and they did their thing. And in church, they had their own way of making them feel better as opposed to this horrible thing called slavery. But we still survived.
Yeah.
All that through the Great Depression and all that. I forget what they used to call the clubs in New York where you had to come in like the back door or something. You couldn't go in. But black folks still survived
Right.
through the music. I
Right.
mean, just making great music.
So maybe as it became more sophisticated or nuanced, think about it with bebop. That's pretty cool music. I can remember a time when I was like, I'm not hip to that at all. It was something that I learned and now love. And maybe that's when some of that occurred.
If you think about one thing that could have happened, you have the big bands, right? Which
Yeah.
were, all the big bands, and So you got all the horn players, right?
Right.
And then, guys were playing solos on those things. And that was the music of the day. That's why everybody was dancing to it, because that was like the top 40 of the day, I guess you might say. But then if you look at that as the root, it could go two different directions. One direction might have been it started going more towards rock and roll and that kind of thing, moving in that direction. And then the solos, guys playing solos, the improvisational aspect took a turn for bebop, and that's where the sophistication came. So now it was like, yeah, I was dancing to this, but I just want to hear what these guys are going to do. I want to really get into the whole improvisation. That might have been what happened. I don't know. It's an interesting question.
And it sounds like something somebody could get a
Think
PhD
about
in.
like when people like Charlie Parker came on the scene. He wasn't playing like that. He was like deep a deep a deep a deep 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 a deep a deep a deep a deep. I said, what?
Right.
But he played on all the big bands.
That's true. That's true.
He
too.
came up
That's
with
right.
the
That's
big
right.
bands,
That's
you know?
right. That's right. That's right.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, all those cats played on big
They had to go through that whole thing.
Okay. Cool. So I want to do something a little bit different. There are times, you mentioned it earlier, that folks seem to think that if you just take an R&B song, take the lyrics out and play it, you got jazz.
And wrong answer.
And so something else has got to happen for that to be the case. But honestly, I was at a concert once, and a friend of mine said, why are they playing this music that nobody knows? And I was like, I don't understand what you mean. And it was like, well, nobody's heard of those songs. Well, yeah, they have. They're called jazz standards. Now, you might not have heard of them because you're not dancing to them, but they're known in the idiom. So I'd like to take a song that we don't think of as jazz necessarily, but we sort of play it as jazz. Let's do a little bit of inner city blues. Yes. Just gonna do a snippet. Rockets, moonshots, spend it on the have-nots. Money, we make it. Before we see it, you take it. Well, make me wanna holler, throw up both my hands. You make me wanna holler, throw up both my hands. This ain't living, this ain't living. No, no. This ain't living. No, 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 no. Inflation to increase my finance. Bills pile up sky high. Send my boy off to die. Oh, make me wanna holler the way they do my life. Make me wanna holler the way they do my life. This ain't living, this ain't living. No, no, no. This ain't living. No, 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 no. This ain't living. No, no. And this ain't living. No, no, no. Yeah. So, like I said, that's one of my pet peeves when people just say, well, I want to go out and listen to some jazz, and they just want me to take the lyrics off of a Luther song and call it jazz. That drives me just a
I
little.
wish I could talk to someone. Say, what flavor of jazz you
It
talking
does
about?
with me
Yeah.
too, because when I came up in big band jazz. I actually played saxophone for many years, so I was in a big band jazz, and we played all of the classics. Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, all of that stuff. And once I came out of high school around the mid '70s, and then the '80s came, and then saw jazz start to get a little bit contemporary. Then Grover Washington came with Mr. Magic.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So the jazz station, okay, I'm like, oh, kind of move on that one.
Exactly.
And then the 90s came, and then smooth jazz came in. I'm like, whoa, what is this? The jazz station. So I just saw it come from the sound of how I thought jazz was, just authentic, and with that, that original sound become more contemporary. So it's that contemporary acceleration that has been doing this. And then the concerts, Jazz Fest. And I'm sitting
Don't
there
get me
like,
started.
wow, you have such and such R&B singer? Oh, jazz. Then, and so now, so so you see what's happening. It's just doing that. It seems like they're trying to do away with the origin of it.
Right.
And, just that sound and just spontaneous, because, jazz is just that feel good expression of, you know,
And I guess the thing that bothers me a little bit is that it's the work.
yes, it's
It's
the
the
word.
work. I share this a lot because I came to this community purposefully for my work, but also because I wanted to grow as a musician, right? And I knew this would be a testing ground. So when I got here calling myself a jazz singer, then I got called out and said, well, but can you scat?
Mm,
Can you solo?
mm,
And that would have been a big no. And then I realized, though, the work that had to go into that. It was like a total retraining of your mind when you listen to music, the way you listen to instrumentals and instrumentalists when they play, that I can't just copy another vocalist. I've got to listen, right? And then work on it. And it took months to work on a solo.
It takes a lifetime.
Yeah, and then a lifetime. I mean,
Yeah.
months to be able to just try it.
Yeah.
And then after you try it, now you keep working on it, right? So when I hear people say, well, so and so is on a jazz festival,
mm-hmm,
I'm like, I love that artist. I do. But don't y'all have a festival?
yeah.
Why would it be a jazz festival? You know?
There are two examples. You mentioned Luther a minute ago. So one of my favorite tunes ever is "A House Is Not a Home."
Absolutely.
The way Luther Vandross did it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now that's a Burt Bacharach tune,
Yes.
Right.
and it's a great piece of music. I mean, Burt Bacharach wrote some really cool, all that Dionne Warwick stuff. I mean, but then you listen to the way Luther Vandross and that band played that tune. That is as much jazz as anything because they took that song and it went from this to this. There's another example. Another guy that I love a bunch is Al Jarreau. Al Jarreau did on his first record he did "She's Leaving Home," which is an old Beatles tune, and everybody should go listen to "She's Leaving Home" by the Beatles, and then you go listen to the way Al Jarreau did it. He did it as a jazz, straight up jazz ballad. Cats on the band are killing it, and one of the things that I just love about it, the bass player is always that far away from just opening up and walking, but he never does. And the tension that creates, that's the kind of thing I mean, everything that I just described to me is just as bad as a Coltrane solo for a Cats to come up with those arrangements and play that stuff down and have it do what it does. So, yeah, it's really interesting. That's a whole nother component of, I can take Earth, Wind, and Fire and say, they're playing jazz. The horn player on the band, what was it?
Yeah.
Well, Wolf, I can't remember his name.
Andrew Woolfolk?
Yeah, I mean, man, soloing on the end of that stuff on, That's the Way of the World and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I mean,
Classic.
so yeah, it's that's just another way that jazz can't be categorized. But same thing, if you said, why would this cat be on the thing? Well, depending on what they did,
That's the point, though.
that's a whole other element of jazz that is not necessarily playing bop or playing standards or just doing improvisational stuff. It's the arrangement aspect of it,
Right.
which is real hip.
Right. Well, I know our time is probably running out, but you guys know that one of my favorite tunes is a jazz ballad by Hoagy Carmichael. let's do a little bit of Skylark. And I wanted to do this one as you guys are setting me up, because music, I believe, is one of the main things that will heal us in this moment. Because no matter what your views about certain things are, when you get on that stage and you're ready to play, you got to come together. This is a community up here. And if someone wants to step away from the community in the middle, we deal with that, right? Sometimes harshly. But I like to do this song because it always heals me. I hope it will be healing. Skylark, have you anything to say to me? Can you tell me where my love can be? Is there a meadow in the mist where someone's waiting to be kissed? Oh, Skylark, have you seen a valley green with spring, where my heart can go a journey over the meadow, through the rain, to a blossom-covered lane? And in your lonely flight, haven't you heard the music in the night? Wonderful music, faint as the will of the wisp, crazy as a loon, soft as a gypsy, serenading the moon. Oh, Skylark, I don't know if you can find these things, but my heart is riding on your wings. So if you see them anywhere, won't you leave me there? Yeah. So as our final statements, what would you like to see, in your own words, music do, or how you think music could help heal us, maybe save us from ourselves in this moment? What could music like jazz, that's so rooted in our story in this country, how could it help to heal our community or communities?
The thing that pastor once said this, that I thought was really cool. He said that in the verse of that song, or the chorus of that song, that said everything that needed to be said. You didn't need an hour sermon, or you didn't need an hour and a half sermon. And to me, that's the power, because not only from a lyrical standpoint, now I'm not everybody's affected this way, but when I hear something that's instrumental, that is just beautiful harmony and beautiful melody, I mean, it affects you.
That's
You know,
right.
I know it affects all of us. You know, you hear that, and it's like, man, oh God, that guy picked the greatest notes to play right there. It was just a wonderful line. But there was a lot of truth in what he said. Sometimes you can say more in 3 or 4 lines of a song than you could ever get in a book, and it just gets it across. And I think that's one of the true powers of music. That's what I really believe. If you want to, because it reaches people universally, but on a different plane or a different level. And I think that's like extremely powerful.
I agree.
I always said that the two most powerful voices in the world is words and music. And music, and sometimes it's music than words. And I would say that I just think when music is presented, it should come from the soul and the heart. Because when it comes from the soul, I believe that's where God of the universe is coming through you, and the frequency is going to always be right to touch people. Because you can present a song or music from your mind, but I think the frequency is what changes people. And I think as long as people can just allow themselves to write great music and stay in that realm, music will be medicine to those who hear it. Because music is a healer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a great healer. Yeah.
One, and I heard when Marsalis talked about this, but you take "I'm So Lonesome I Can Cry." If you ever listen to that song, and I mean, it's just wonderful because this guy's pouring his heart out about his situation, and so he's sharing what he feels. And now, how many times have all of us kind of felt that way at some point in time? And what's the comfort in hearing somebody else sing that and put that into words? That's another thing. I mean, it can come from anywhere. So, that's just a straight up simple country song, but the story is so strong and so powerful and so universally felt by folks that have even been there or can say, yeah, I can see how you could feel that way. I mean, that's just like you're saying, that's from the soul stuff, from the heart stuff. And those stories are just great. And that's how stories have been told for centuries, like you were talking about. That's how communication was done back during slavery. It was through music, through song, because they could get away with it, for one thing.
Messages and everything else.
Exactly.
Here's the one phrase I got from, again, James Brown. He says, if it feels good, it is good.
Yeah.
Drop the mic. That's it.
Yeah.
That's right.
If it feels good, it is good.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that this history, our way of doing the history of jazz, has been enjoyable for folks. We're going to maybe try a little bit of a non-jazz tune.
Oh, no.
Yeah, a non-jazz tune that we do that will maybe help someone out there remember what they're connected to. Yeah, historically, everybody got a grandma.
Cool.
You don't have anything else. You got a grandma.
That's right.
Grandma's hands clapped in church on Sunday morning. Grandma's hands played a tambourine so well. Grandma's hands used to issue out a warning. She said, Tony, don't you run so fast. Might fall on a piece of glass. Might be snakes down in that grass. Grandma's hands soothe the local unwed mother. Grandma's hands used to ache sometime and swell. Grandma's hands used to hold her face and tell her, she said, baby, grandma understand that you really love your man. So put yourself in Jesus' hands, grandma's hands. Grandma's hands She used to hand me a piece of candy. Grandma's hands picked me up each time I fell. Y'all know I fell a lot. Grandma's hands, oh, they really came in handy. Cause she said, John, don't you spank that child. What you wanna spank her for? She didn't spill my apple core, but I ain't got grandma anymore. When I get to heaven, I'll look for grandma's hand. What you got? What you got? What you got? Grandma's hand soothe the local unwed mother. Grandma's hands used to ache sometimes and swear. Grandma's hands, oh, they hold her face and tell her that she'd say, baby, grandma understand that you really love that man. Put yourself in Jesus' hands, grandma's hands. Grandma's hands used to give me a piece of candy. Grandma's hands picked me up each time I fell. Y'all know grandma's hands, oh, they really came in handy when she said, Didi, don't you spank that baby. She's the best child, that ain't no maybe. She didn't spill my apple core, but I ain't got grandma anymore. When I get to heaven, I'll look for grandma's hand. Had a lot of love in them, grandma's hand. Had a lot of love in them, grandma's hands. Had a lot of love in them, grandma's hands. Yeah. I hope this has been fun for you guys. It has been for me. I know I got some stuff now I got to go back and look up because what was the tune you gave us? You said, Van, that Al Jarreau did. She's leaving.
Listen to that. It's just a wonderful arrangement of that song. Beautiful arrangement.
So in case anybody out there that follows us wonders, this is how I end up with songs that I add to my repertoire. Mostly one of these guys hands me a song or says, you know, you ought to sing that. The only other one, well, our number one person left us last year, Gerard. He was always handing, Gerard Benson, he was always handing me a song.
Gerard would say, well, you need to sing this song.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Tony, you need to sing this. Like right now, do you know it? No. But yeah, that's how, but that's what music is too. That's the best thing about it, because if you hear something and you hear my voice in it, now I definitely have to go learn it. And sometimes it's more challenging than others. Sometimes it's something I just hadn't thought about. I love a song with a story. I love a song with a story. The Skylark tune that we did is special to me because one of my favorite cousins wanted me to learn that song, and it was not the easiest song to learn. So I put it off because he wanted to play it with me as I sang, and unfortunately, he passed away before I was able to sing it with him. So Van and I learned it, and I do it all the time, and it brings him to me. And so that's one of the things that I think music can do for each of us. It soothes our soul. It calms us down in hard moments. And during Black History Month, I'm hoping that whether it's spirituals, whether it's gospel music, whether it's R&B or jazz, I think of hip hop and I think about all of the jazz licks and R&B and funk tunes that that artists have copied, or there's a word for it that I'm missing, right?
Covered.
That they've added to their tunes. They learn that they have to ask permission for that. But when you think about where jazz came from, it's hard to dig into that research without doing a little or a deep dive into the history of Black people in this country. And so before you think that jazz came from somewhere else, do your deep dive, because you cannot do that deep dive with learning something about a people who brought a culture here and then expanded on it through the most horrific experience of this country, which was enslavement. And so, still out of that, they managed to create, ultimately, or certainly influence, an idiom that covers the world now, that the best musicians want to learn to master. So every time you do that, folks, when you listen, you're drawing closer to that history and the sacrifices that were made by some of those folks, and all of those souls that I think listen and connect when we do this music, and we do it well. So for all of my musician friends out there, do your homework, because this, for me, jazz is sacred music. Jazz is sacred music. And so if you're going to do it, do your homework, do it well. I'm Tony Tuppence. We are here with Van Sachs on guitar, Paul Dozier on bass, the incomparable Tyrone Jefferson on trombone.
Comprehensible.
Incomprehensible.
And my name is Tony Tuppence. When you can, check out A Sign of the Times. We're all over the place, and we'd love to see you there with us. Let's play a little bit of
I don't know that one.
all. Let's do a little of all blues as we head out. I like that.
Two.
The sea, the sky, you and I, sea and sky, you and I, all blue. So many colors, so many hues. See the sky, you and I. See and sky and you and I, and all you know we all got the blues. So many colors, so many hues. So many colors, so many hues. So many colors, so many hues. So many colors, but we all get the blue.